I might be rocking the Bo Nix sunset orange jersey today, but the Broncos will be rocking their whiteout jerseys tomorrow on Christmas against the Kansas City Chiefs. Something that I think is probably the cleanest look I've seen since we put on the throwback jerseys. So I'll tell you what I'm doing. I'm smashing that thumbs up icon. If I'm you, of course, because I can't do it myself, because I support this brand new uni combo. It is so unbelievably clean. So do yourself and the Broncos a favor and smash that thumbs up icon. Today's show is not about the Broncos' new uniforms, though. It is about what ESPN called the Pat Surtain problem. Now, I'm sure you're sitting here wondering, whoa, what on earth could you be talking about, Moose? Well, believe it or not, this is actually kind of a misleading title because what ESPN is trying to let you know is that the Pat Surtain problem isn't actually a problem with Pat Surtain. It's the result of Pat Surtain. Take a shot for every time I've said Pat Surtain. Maybe a shot of eggnog. Merry Christmas, by the way. So Ben Solak, who does a pretty good job of covering the Denver Broncos from time to time, he's also an NFL insider. He kind of broke down what this whole PS2 problem is, and here's what he had to say verbatim. 1, that's how many times Pat Surtain was targeted in coverage against the Jacksonville Jaguars out of 43 coverage snaps. Conversely, out of the 42 coverage snaps, Riley Moss was targeted 12 times. P.J. Locke was targeted 9 times in 42 snaps. Ja'Quan McMillian was targeted another 4 times. It goes on and on from there. So what does that mean? If you were just sitting here thinking to yourself, Moose, what is this Pat Surtain problem? Break it down for me in 2 sentences. I got you. Opposing quarterbacks are targeting the side of the field that PS2 is not shifting towards in zone coverage. This is exactly why the Denver Broncos put so much man coverage on Riley Moss, because they know that if Pat Surtain is sitting back in zone, he's going to be able to cover that area so that they can go out for that short route. And then playing in man coverage, the wide receiver is going to have to beat Riley Moss one-on-one if they want to throw the ball deep. Well, the problem with that is that Riley does get beat, so they can throw the ball deep. But one of the things that I do notice is that not only does it expose the weaknesses of some of the other Broncos cornerbacks, it also kind of shuts down Surtain. And I say shuts down not in the sense of like the quarterback throws and completely picks apart Surtain. What's the best way to make sure that PS2, the reigning defensive player of the year, does not get involved in the game? Don't target him. So that's how you avoid him. Just completely ignore him. So what the teams do, if you're the Jacksonville Jaguars, if you're the Buffalo Bills, if you're the New England Patriots, is you sacrifice your one wide receiver to benefit the rest of the team. In this case, it was Brian Thomas Jr. for the Jaguars. Did you notice Parker Washington had 6 catches for like 145 yards? Brenton Strange had 5 receptions for like 85 yards. Hell, even Jacoby Myers had 4 receptions for like 50 yards. Brian Thomas Jr., who Pat Surtain was covering the entire day, had 2 catches for like 18 yards. Ben Solak continues. In the postseason, more offenses will be equipped with the necessary pass catcher depth to relegate Surtain to an actionless island. The Jaguars did it on Sunday. What about the Patriots and their rotating cast of wide receivers? Or the Bills, who don't even throw to their wide receivers? They throw more to their tight ends. Obviously, this is a very good and kind of strategic way to pick apart the Broncos, specifically if the Broncos' pass rush is not getting home nearly as much as we would kind of hope, as evidenced by what Nick Bonito said in his post-game presser. He was saying, we haven't been playing our best football as a pass rush. But it isn't just the pass rush. It's not the pass rush's fault, because the pass rush has, 63 sacks now on the season? They're unbelievable. Let's just be, they had 5 against the Jaguars. They were really, really good at times during that game. But the problem now becomes if Pat Surtain is being kind of ignored and he's isolating one side of the field, you're turning it into basically a half-court offense and you're targeting the other side of the field. And the other side of the field is making up for 50% of the combined target share against the Jacksonville Jaguars. Riley Moss gave up 28.5% of the targets. P.J. Locke gave up 21.4% of the targets. That combined target share is 49.9%. So let's just round up that 0.1. 50% of the targets that you're going up against or that Jacksonville was throwing against were against two players. There's the problem. That's the Pat Surtain problem. The result of PS2 being so good accounts for Trevor Lawrence and other opposing quarterbacks to go out and pick apart the weaker links. So the playoff quarterbacks that you're going to see, by the way, problem's not going away, is Trevor Lawrence, who we just saw pick us apart, Drake Maye, Josh Allen, Justin Herbert, CJ Stroud, and Aaron Rodgers. The weak link on that list, by the way, is Aaron because of his age, and he's just not very mobile anymore. And plus, I don't think the Steelers are actually that good. So, but you're most likely going to face one of the five that are actually good quarterbacks: Lawrence, Maye, Allen, Herbert, Stroud. So I'm going to be completely honest with you. The Broncos got to fix it, and they got to fix it quick because you don't have time to mull around with different types of packages that you can roll out. You've got to be able to go out there and against the best quarterbacks, figure out a way to shut them down. Now, quick little TV timeout here because it isn't just about, the negatives. We are going to be positive here for a change. Moose is going to be live with our producer Reed for Broncos versus Chiefs. That's a live watch party tomorrow on Christmas. So, Merry Christmas to you. Subscribe and hit that little bell icon. We're like 22 subscribers away, by the way, from hitting 52,000. So if you want to join us for that Broncos versus Chiefs game, which the Broncos should win, do me a favor, hit that subscribe button and click that bell icon. So how do you fix the problem? Because you can't just talk about the problem. How do you solve the problem? What's the solution? Well, Uncle Moose has got you taken care of. I think it's a 3-step problem, and there's a way that you can fix this. Or if it's not just a fix, it's a makeshift fix until you can get another cornerback in here next year. Before we talk about that, let's talk about our friends over at Prize Picks. Tomorrow literally is Christmas. Ho, 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 and a merry one to you. But if you want to win some money on Christmas, you can do it with our friends over at Prize Picks. Let me tell you about what Prize Picks has got going on. Everybody's favorite Prize Picks holiday promotion is back. 7 days of Pixmas. Prize Picks has given out 7 days of deals all the way through Christmas Day, which is tomorrow, including a Christmas Day max discount. Pixmas started on December 20th, so download the app today and unwrap all of those deals. Takes 30 seconds, by the way, to make a lineup. All you got to do is pick your player, their stat projections, the more or the less, and then watch your money multiply up to 2,000 times your cashless football season on Prize Picks. And if you want to get your early payout because you feel like, hey, we're at an all-time high with our winnings, Prize Picks now has early payouts, so you can cash out before your lineup and game even finishes. Do me a favor, download the app today. Use code CLNS to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. That's code CLNS to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. Prize Picks. It is good to be right. How do you fix the problem? Easy. Step 1, shade Locke to PS2's side. Now, I will admit that this is not a fail-safe problem or a fail-safe solution, I should say, excuse me. The reason I say it's not fail-safe is because you can't do this every play. Defenses and offenses will start to identify that issue and then start to adjust accordingly. But one screenshot that I found from the Jaguars game kind of highlights that Locke was not even remotely close to playing on PS2 side. Take a look. Locke's in blue. Ja'Quan McMillian is in yellow. And Trevor, obviously, in black. If you notice where PS2 is, he's all the way down at the bottom of your screen, whereas Riley Moss is at the top of your screen. Locke is trying to play single high safety coverage here. He's not good enough. You either have to drop back Talanoa Hufanga for a little bit of extra help or shade Locke over to PS2's side in order for him to get a little bit of extra help, especially if that player is running deep. So don't run single high with Locke, because in the event that somebody does get by Riley Moss and he's cheating over to Riley Moss's side, now PJ Locke is responsible for covering that wide receiver. And that play specifically that I just showed you resulted in a 25-yard gain. And Locke wasn't good against the Jaguars. 6 tackles, average depth of target was 17 yards per throw, targeted 9 times with a coverage grade of 33.3. Those are brutal numbers. Brutal. He's not as good and as talented as Brandon Jones. So you got to find a way to make up for his deficiencies. So shade him to PS2's side. Speaking of Pat Surtain, mix up Surtain's matchups. One of the things that I noticed earlier in this episode as I was talking about it was, wow, we're talking a lot about how Pat Surtain was on Brian Thomas Jr. Maybe flip it around. Maybe put Pat Surtain on Parker Washington. Maybe put Pat Surtain on Brenton Strange for a change, who is the tight end. Maybe put him on Jacoby Myers. You can't just follow one player all game because, like I told you, offenses are going to isolate that player and say, you're the decoy. Go out there and get your cardio. That's not what you need. So at any point, the Denver Broncos could have said to Pat Surtain, okay, well, look, you've shut down Brian Thomas Jr. Obviously, Parker Washington is going off. So maybe you just flip. It's okay. You can push it through there, Searle. At any point, you could have asked Pat Surtain to say, okay, well, you're absolutely locking down Brian Thomas Jr. Let's have you shift over to Parker Washington. Let's have you shift over to Jacoby Myers or Brenton Strange for a change. So obviously, when you look at what happened in this game, it wasn't a Pat Surtain problem like the article suggests, but rather because Pat Surtain is so good and opposing quarterbacks and offensive coordinators and head coaches know that, they're going to target everybody else. So that third step does involve everybody else. You got to rotate the cornerback assignments. You got to move Riley Moss around. You got to move Chris Abrams-Drain into the starting rotation. Ja'Quan McMillian, Ja'Quan McMillian. You got to move these guys around so that we don't get stale or on the exact same matchups as we saw the previous player, the previous quarter. And the Broncos cornerback depth chart right now, there's still a lot of talent here. I still believe that Riley Moss, yes, is a starting caliber corner in this league, but he's not PS2. And obviously without Brandon Jones helping in the backfield with that coverage, you're missing a big-time safety help. So now there's even more pressure on the corners to perform. So why not put someone back there that has experience at every bit of those positions? Nickel, outside safety. Ja'Quan McMillian. I think he's the key to this. I think you have to start using him as a utility back. You know what I mean. Like cornerback, defensive back, etc. Use him as a utility defensive back. If you can do that, Ja'Quan McMillian has the knowledge and the wherewithal to play all of those positions. So I think he's the key. But remember, we got Chiefs week this week. Let's focus our energy now on the Denver Broncos taking on the Kansas City Chiefs. The Broncos currently are 13.5-point favorites, as they should be. We're going up against a third-string quarterback in Kansas City. So it should be the Broncos win this and win it comfortably, which would get them back on the right track. But obviously, we won't know until tomorrow. As always, Broncos country, a mile-high salute to you. Be cool.